When you think of Danny Tanner, you're probably picturing him with a feather duster. That's the image, right? Danny Tanner, Full House, TGIF, Friday Nights, the spotless house, the shiny kitchen counter, the dad who treated one fingerprint on a window like the family had been attacked. As kids, we just thought he was uptight. That was the joke. Danny cleans too much. Danny worries too much. Danny needs everything perfect. But then you watch the show again as an adult, and suddenly the joke feels different. Thanksgiving episode, Season 1, Episode 9. The girls are in the kitchen trying to help. Everyone's supposed to be having this warm family holiday. But Danny is moving through the kitchen like this meal has to do more than just feed everybody. And then he says it. Everything today has to be absolutely perfect because it's the girls' first Thanksgiving without their mother. And that line changes the whole character. Because now it's not just Danny being dramatic about Thanksgiving dinner. It's a widower trying to get 3 little girls through a day that probably hurts more than they even know how to say. Danny Tanner wasn't just a clean freak. He was a grieving father who turned perfection into parenting. Because after Pam died, keeping the house spotless became one of the only ways he knew how to make a broken family feel safe again. The cleaning was the joke. Perfection was the wound. You know the house. The living room with the stairs you always wanted to slide down. The kitchen with those yellow walls that somehow always felt warm. The end of episode speeches that worked on you even when you were 8 and knew they were coming. Danny would sit the girls down and he would give the speech. He would hug them. He would fix it. He would look at whoever was crying and make the whole thing feel smaller before the credits rolled. Danny Tanner could turn a broken lamp into a federal investigation about honesty. And it always worked. Every week, every episode. As a kid, you just accepted that. As an adult, you realized that is an insane promise to make anyone. But Danny Tanner made it every week. And the question that changes everything is, why does a man work that hard to make sure nothing stays broken? Full House is not really a show about a widower raising 3 daughters with help from his brother-in-law and best friend. That's the long line. That's not the show. Full House is about a broken family trying to feel whole again. The Tanner house runs like an emotional repair shop. Someone breaks something, a toy, a rule, a friendship, a feeling. Someone gives a speech, someone hugs, the house resets. This was a show where every emotional crisis could be handled with one talk and one very well-timed hug. And Danny was the one keeping that system running. In Full House, no feeling was allowed to wander around unresolved for more than 22 minutes. Danny knew the house had to be ready for the next problem. The counters had to be wiped, the room had to be reset, because you cannot fix anything in chaos. And that changes when you remember what this house was built around. 3 little girls had learned very early that safety could disappear overnight. Jesse and Joey move in to help, but Danny was the one trying to make the house feel safe again. Let's call it what it is. Perfection as parenting. Danny could not stop Pam's accident. He could not give Michelle a real memory of her mother. DJ had memories he could not protect from sadness. Stephanie had an absence she could feel before she could fully explain it. He can't fix any of that. So he fixes what he can. He cleans the living room. He scrubs the kitchen. He alphabetizes the spice rack and polishes the counters and maintains the kind of order that makes the house feel controlled, contained, and survivable. Danny Tanner is not just a neat freak. He's running a grief containment system with a feather duster. That is why a spring cleaning episode can start as a Lysol joke and end with a home video of Pam. The show keeps putting comedy and grief in the same room, and then asking Danny to make the room presentable. He can't bring Pam back, but he can make sure the kitchen is clean before breakfast. That becomes the logic of his entire life. Season 1, Episode 17. Danny goes on a date, or tries to. The girls find out and they panic. And Danny, who's still trying to figure out how to be a parent, a widower, and an actual person at the same time, sits them down and says the thing he's probably been practicing in his head since Pam died. Of course I still love your mother. She was the first love of my life. And I always will. I'll always love her. He tells them that he and his wife had agreed that if either one of them was ever alone again, they should try and find someone. And then he tells his daughters that he thinks about her every time he looks at them. That part matters. Every time I look at you. Danny's not moving on from Pam. He's moving forward with her still inside the family. She's in DJ's face, in Stephanie's laugh, in Michelle's smile. The house is not empty of Pam. It is full of her absence. And that is why the cleaning matters. Danny's not obsessed with order because he has nothing better to do. He's obsessed with order because he's trying to build a world where nothing else can vanish without warning. The house being perfect is the only promise he knows how to keep. But let's look who the clean house is really for. The spotless kitchen is for Danny, yes. It gives him something to control. But it is also for 3 little girls who already learned the world could change overnight. That house is the emotional structure they have to live inside. If Danny falls apart, the house feels it. If he holds, they get to feel held. That is what the speeches are doing. That is what the hugs are doing. That is what the clean counters are doing. Danny was holding himself together so that his daughters did not have to see him suffer. Danny wasn't parenting just one child's grief. He was parenting 3 different versions of it. DJ was old enough to remember Pam clearly. She had real memories, her mother's cooking, her mother showing up, the feeling of someone who used to be there and now isn't. That is a different kind of loss. Stephanie was old enough to feel the gap, but young enough that the edges were blurry. She knew something was missing, she just couldn't always name it. Michelle was so young that her mother became a story the family had to keep telling. Pam, for Michelle, was not really a memory. She was a photograph, a sentence, a face in a video, something Danny had to build for her out of words. And one episode makes all 3 versions visible at once. Season 2, episode Goodbye, Mr. Bear. Danny goes into a full spring cleaning mode. It is played for laughs, the drill sergeant routine, the Lysol speech, the manic energy. Most sitcom dads had hobbies. Danny had Windex and unresolved trauma. But the episode ends with Danny playing a home video of Pam for the girls. The cleaning was the joke, the video was the point. He tells them, "You girls don't have to worry about forgetting your mom. You can think about those happy times whenever you want." The cleaning was never about the cleaning. A lot of us grew up thinking the parent who needed everything perfect was just being annoying. We laughed at Danny. Then we grew up and realized perfection is panic wearing an apron. When Danny snaps at a mess, he's not really protecting the countertop. He's protecting the only thing he still can. He couldn't protect Pam, he can protect the kitchen. And when he gives that speech at the end of every episode, it's not because he loves the sound of his own voice. It's because Pam used to be there for this. Someone now has to fill that space. Someone has to make sure the girls leave the table with something they can hold on to. Control becomes love when you can't hold the person you actually want to hold. The sharper truth is that Danny's job was not just to parent the girls. His job was to parent the audience. Full House needed his grief visible enough to justify the premise, but contained enough that families could still watch it with dinner on a Friday night. If Danny fell apart, the show fell apart. So the feather duster and the speeches and the spotless house and the need for everything to resolve before the credits rolled, those were not just character traits. They were the mechanism that made grief safe to sit with. Danny Tanner was not only holding the Tanner house together, he was keeping Full House from becoming too sad to watch. And we laugh at the man doing all of it. In 1987 on TGIF on ABC, a show like Full House could not leave grief sitting there unresolved. There was a format, 22 minutes, a problem, a lesson, a hug, a reset. Parents were watching with their kids. Dinner was probably on the coffee table. Nobody tuned in on a Friday night to watch a family fall apart and stay that way. So Full House turned grief into ritual. The speeches, the hugs, the moral in the last 90 seconds, that was the sadness shaped into something Friday night television could hold. Danny's job was to take the thing that hurt and make it survivable before the credits. He did it every week, and the show made it look easy. Looking back now, it's easier to see a widower at 29 who decided that if he kept the house clean, solved every problem, and got everyone safely to bedtime, then maybe the family would actually make it. That is the thing people realize if they rewatch Full House now. I didn't realize how much he was holding, but he was holding everything. The house, the girls, the memory of Pam, the forward motion of a family that had every reason to stop. So come back to the feather duster, because that was always the bit. Danny and the feather duster, Danny in the spotless house, Danny as the man who could not let the kitchen be messy for one afternoon. But now it looks different. The house Danny cleaned every episode was not just a sitcom set. It was the house where Pam was supposed to be. The house where 3 little girls woke up one morning with a mother and went to sleep that night without one. The absence had a shape there. A room she used. A chair she sat in. A kitchen she cooked in. Danny was not cleaning because dust mattered more than people. He was cleaning because people mattered so much that the house had to feel safe for them. The spotless kitchen was not an obsession. It was an offering. Every time we watched Full House as kids and laughed at Danny with his Lysol and surgical gloves, what we were really watching was a man trying to hold a broken family together with the only tools he had. We laugh at the clean house because we were kids. Rewatching it now, the clean house looks like love, trying not to fall apart. This is what this channel is about. Going back to the shows we grew up with, not to ruin them, not to pretend they were perfect, but to understand why they stayed with us. Because sometimes the things we laugh at as kids turn out to be the things we understand most as adults. If you grew up with this stuff too, please consider subscribing. We're going back through all of it. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.